Have you ever wondered why your daily routine falls apart after just a few weeks? You start with incredible motivation, plan everything perfectly, buy all the right tools, and then boom. By day 14, you're back to scrolling your phone until midnight and hitting snooze 5 times every morning. What if I told you the problem isn't your willpower or your schedule? What if the real issue is that you're approaching routine building completely backwards? There's an ancient samurai principle that explains why modern productivity advice fails 99% of the time. And once you understand this principle, you'll never struggle with consistency again. But here's the catch. This method requires you to do something that feels completely wrong. Something that goes against every productivity guru and life coach you've ever listened to. You'll need to start messy, embrace imperfection, and throw your beautiful plans out the window. Before we dive in, I need you to do something. Comment below with the one routine you've tried to build, but keep abandoning. Maybe it's waking up early, exercising, reading, or meditation. Whatever it is, write it down. Because by the end of this series, that routine will finally stick. Not because you'll have a better plan, but because you'll understand why planning is often the enemy of action. Now, let me tell you about someone who discovered this the hard way. Chapter 1. The Perfect Planner's Prison. Meet Sarah, a software engineer from Seattle. Brilliant woman, successful career, but she had one massive problem. She couldn't stick to any routine for more than 2 weeks. Sound familiar? Sarah's desk was covered with notebooks. Morning routine version 12, workout schedule final draft, meal prep optimization guide, sleep hygiene protocols, beautiful color-coded calendars mapping out her ideal day down to the minute. She'd spent months researching the perfect routine. She knew exactly when to wake up for optimal circadian rhythm alignment. She understood which supplements to take and when. She had calculated the precise number of minutes needed for each activity. Monday would arrive with renewed hope. This time it's different. This time I've planned everything perfectly. Monday morning, she'd wake up at 5:30 as planned. But then her brain would start negotiating. Maybe I should review my plan one more time to make sure I'm doing it right. Tuesday, she'd think about adjusting the timing based on yesterday's experience. Wednesday brought new research about a better approach she discovered online. By Friday, she was back to her old patterns, promising herself she'd start fresh next Monday. 6 months of this cycle. 6 months of elaborate planning with 0 lasting results. She'd become a professional routine planner but never actually developed the routines themselves. Sound familiar? Here's what Sarah didn't understand. Her brain was using planning as a sophisticated form of procrastination. Every hour spent perfecting her routine was an hour spent avoiding the discomfort of actually starting. The breakthrough came when she discovered something that changed everything. An ancient samurai teaching that reveals why perfect preparation often prevents perfect execution. Chapter 2. The Samurai's Secret Nobody Talks About. In feudal Japan, there were 2 types of warriors: the scholars and the fighters. The scholars spent years studying technique, memorizing forms, perfecting their understanding of combat theory. They could recite every principle, explain every strategy, demonstrate flawless movements in controlled practice. The fighters started swinging immediately. Messy, imperfect, often wrong. But they swung every day. They failed constantly, adjusted rapidly, and built their skills through continuous, imperfect action. Guess which ones survived real combat? Here's the principle that will change how you think about routines forever. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. You cannot plan your way to the perfect routine because the perfect routine emerges from imperfect practice. Think about it this way. A child learning to walk doesn't spend months studying biomechanics and gait analysis. They just start falling forward repeatedly until their body figures it out. They fail fast, adjust automatically, and master walking through iteration, not preparation. Your routine building follows the same principle. You don't need to know the optimal wake-up time before you start waking up early. You discover your optimal wake-up time by waking up early and paying attention to what works. But here's where it gets interesting. Modern neuroscience has proven what samurai understood centuries ago. Your brain learns through doing, not through imagining. You can visualize your perfect morning routine 1,000 times, but it builds zero neural pathways. Actually stumble through one imperfect morning routine, and your brain starts forming the connections that make it easier next time. This is why Sarah's elaborate planning never worked. She was trying to solve the routine problem intellectually when it's actually a physical, experiential problem. Chapter 3. The Avalanche Effect. Let me introduce you to the most powerful routine-building concept you've never heard of: the avalanche effect. Real avalanches don't start big. They start with a single snowball rolling down a mountain. But once that snowball is in motion, it accumulates mass, momentum, and unstoppable power. Your routine works exactly the same way. You don't need to start with a perfect 2-hour morning routine. You need to start with one tiny action that creates momentum. Here's what Sarah did differently. Instead of planning the perfect routine, she committed to one microscopic habit. Every morning, within 5 minutes of waking up, she would drink 1 glass of water. That's it. No conditions, no prerequisites, no perfect timing required. Her brain immediately protested. This is too simple. This won't create the transformation I want. But she did it anyway. Day 1, water within 5 minutes. Day 2, same thing. By day 7, something remarkable happened. She started waking up thinking about the water instead of thinking about going back to sleep. Week 2 brought an unexpected development. After drinking her water, she found herself naturally wanting to do something else productive. Not because she planned it, but because action created momentum. The tiny habit had become a catalyst for other behaviors. This is the avalanche effect in action. One small, consistent action creates momentum that naturally expands into larger patterns. But here's the crucial part. The expansion happens organically, not through planning. Most people try to build routines by designing the perfect avalanche. They want to start with a full 2-hour morning routine because that's what successful people do. But avalanches don't work that way. You can't create momentum by starting big. You create momentum by starting small and letting physics take over. Sarah's single glass of water became 5 minutes of stretching, which became 10 minutes of reading, which became a full morning routine that she actually enjoyed. Not because she planned it perfectly, but because she started imperfectly and let momentum build naturally. Chapter 4. The Prerequisites Trap. Here's where most routine attempts die. Prerequisites. Your brain loves to create conditions that must be met before you can start. I need to buy the right workout clothes first. I should organize my space before beginning. Let me research the optimal approach before committing. Every prerequisite is a delay tactic. Your brain doesn't want better conditions. It wants to avoid the vulnerability of being bad at something new. Sarah fell into this trap repeatedly. Before starting her morning routine, she convinced herself she needed blackout curtains for better sleep, a sunrise alarm clock for gentle waking, the perfect journal for reflection, and organic coffee for sustained energy. 3 months of shopping and optimizing. 0 days of actual routine practice. The samurai approach eliminates prerequisites entirely. You start with what you have, where you are, in whatever condition you find yourself. Tired? Start tired. Unprepared? Start unprepared. Conditions don't need to be perfect, because perfection is built through imperfection, not before it. When Sarah finally abandoned her prerequisites and just started drinking water immediately upon waking, magic happened. Not because conditions were perfect, but because action began regardless of conditions. This is the foundation everything else builds upon. Your routine doesn't need perfect conditions to start. It needs consistent action to develop. Chapter 5. The 5-Minute Revolution. Here's something that will sound completely insane until you try it. The most powerful routine changes happen in the first 5 minutes after you wake up. Not the first hour, not the first 30 minutes. The first 5 minutes. Why? Because your brain is in a unique state immediately after waking. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and willpower, hasn't fully activated yet. This creates a window where action can bypass your usual mental resistance. Sarah discovered this by accident. On day 12 of her water habit, she woke up and automatically reached for the glass before her brain could start its usual negotiation process. No internal debate, no weighing of options, just immediate action. That's when she realized something profound was happening. Your morning routine isn't really about the activities you do. It's about training your brain to act without negotiation. Every morning you wake up and immediately do what you committed to do. You're strengthening a neural pathway that says, I am someone who follows through on my commitments to myself. This is why starting small is so crucial. You're not just building a habit, you're building an identity. An identity change happens through consistent proof, not grand gestures. Think about this differently. Every morning presents you with the same choice. Will you be someone who acts on their intentions or someone who negotiates with them? The person who drinks water immediately becomes someone who acts. The person who lies in bed thinking about drinking water becomes someone who negotiates. These micro-decisions compound. After 30 days of immediate action, Sarah's brain learned to expect follow-through. When she committed to something, her subconscious assumed it would happen. This created a foundation that made every other routine change exponentially easier. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. They think bigger is better. If one glass of water is good, surely a full morning routine is better. Wrong. Bigger creates more opportunities for negotiation, more chances for your brain to find excuses. The samurai understood this principle deeply. They called it the way of small victories. Master the small thing completely before attempting the large thing. Not because the small thing matters most, but because mastery of small things creates the capacity for large things. Chapter 6. The Momentum Code. Once Sarah had established her 5-minute water ritual, something unexpected began happening. Other parts of her day started improving without any conscious effort. She found herself making better food choices, going to bed earlier, and feeling more energetic throughout the day. This isn't coincidence. This is the momentum code in action. One keystone behavior creates ripple effects throughout your entire system. But here's what's fascinating. You can't plan these ripple effects. They emerge naturally from consistent action on the core behavior. Most productivity experts get this backwards. They try to optimize everything simultaneously. Wake up early and exercise and meditate and journal and eat perfectly and work efficiently. This creates what I call decision fatigue paralysis. Too many changes, too many decisions, too many opportunities for failure. The samurai approach is surgical. Find the one behavior that, when changed, makes everything else easier. For Sarah, it was that immediate morning action. For others, it might be laying out clothes the night before, or reading for 10 minutes daily, or doing 5 push-ups after brushing their teeth. The key is identifying what researchers call a keystone habit, a behavior that naturally triggers other positive behaviors without requiring additional willpower. You know you've found your keystone when changing it starts changing things you weren't even trying to change. Sarah's water habit became her keystone because it established immediate action as her default morning mode. Once her brain learned to act immediately upon waking, that pattern extended to other decisions throughout the day. Less hesitation, less negotiation, more follow-through on everything. This is why the samurai focused on perfecting basic movements before attempting advanced techniques. They understood that excellence in fundamentals creates excellence in everything else. Your morning routine works the same way. Perfect the first 5 minutes, and the rest of your day reorganizes itself around that foundation. Chapter 7. The Failure Protocol. Now we get to the part nobody talks about. What happens when you break your routine? Because you will break it. Life will interfere, motivation will disappear, and you'll find yourself back in old patterns. This is where most people give up entirely. Sarah hit this wall on day 18. She woke up sick, stayed in bed an extra hour, and completely skipped her water ritual. Her immediate thought was the same one that had derailed her previous attempts. I've already broken the streak, so what's the point? I'll start over on Monday. But this time, something different happened. She remembered a crucial samurai principle. The warrior's strength isn't measured by never falling. It's measured by how quickly they get back up. Here's the failure protocol that changes everything. When you break your routine, you don't restart. You continue. Missing one day doesn't erase 18 days of progress. It's simply data about what disrupted your system, information you can use to strengthen it. Sarah got out of bed, even though she felt terrible, and drank her glass of water. Not because it would cure her cold, but because maintaining the pattern was more important than maintaining perfect conditions. That single decision saved her entire routine-building process. This is perhaps the most important principle in this entire system. Your routine isn't about perfection. It's about resilience. The goal isn't to never break the pattern. The goal is to make the pattern so strong that breaking it once doesn't destroy it completely. Think of your routine like a river. During a drought, the river might slow to a trickle, but it never stops flowing entirely. The moment it stops, it's no longer a river. It's a memory of where water used to be. Your routine works the same way. It can slow down, adapt to circumstances, flow around obstacles, but it must never stop entirely. This mindset shift transforms everything. Instead of seeing missed days as failures, you see them as tests of your system's resilience. Each time you continue after breaking the pattern, you prove to yourself that this routine is bigger than any single day's performance. Chapter 8. The Evolution Phase. Month 2 brought an interesting development for Sarah. Her simple water habit had naturally evolved into something more sophisticated, but not through planning. Through organic growth based on what her body and mind were telling her they needed. After drinking water, she found herself naturally wanting to stretch. Not because she'd planned to add stretching, but because her body felt tight and movement felt good. So stretching became part of the routine. Then she noticed she felt more alert when she stepped outside briefly. So a few minutes on her balcony joined the sequence. This is routine evolution in its natural form. Not forced expansion based on what you think you should do, but organic growth based on what feels genuinely beneficial. The difference is crucial. Forced expansion breaks routines, organic evolution strengthens them. By month 3, Sarah had a 30-minute morning routine that included hydration, gentle movement, fresh air, and quiet reflection. But she hadn't planned any of it beyond that first glass of water. Each element had earned its place by proving its value through experience. This is how sustainable routines actually develop. They grow like living things, adapting to your life, responding to your needs, evolving with your circumstances. You provide the foundation through consistent small action. The routine builds itself through natural selection of what works. The samurai called this principle following the way of water. Water doesn't force its path. It finds the natural course, flows around obstacles, and gradually carves canyons through solid rock. Not through force, but through persistent gentle pressure applied consistently over time. Your routine should flow like water, strong enough to maintain direction, flexible enough to adapt to terrain, persistent enough to overcome obstacles, and patient enough to create lasting change through accumulated small actions rather than dramatic gestures. This evolution phase is where the magic really happens, where your routine stops being something you do and becomes part of who you are. Chapter 9. The Identity Shift Revolution. Month 4 brought something Sarah never expected. People started commenting on how different she seemed. More reliable, more focused, more present. Her co-workers noticed she arrived at meetings prepared and engaged. Her friends mentioned she seemed calmer, less scattered. Even her family remarked that she appeared more confident. But here's what's fascinating. Sarah hadn't consciously tried to change any of these things. She was still just drinking water every morning and doing her evolved routine. Yet something fundamental had shifted at the identity level. This is the most powerful aspect of the samurai approach that nobody talks about. When you consistently follow through on small commitments to yourself, you don't just build habits. You rebuild your self-concept. Your brain starts categorizing you differently. Instead of being someone who tries to be disciplined, you become someone who is disciplined. The transformation happens in your nervous system. Every morning you wake up and immediately act on your commitment. You send a signal to your subconscious. This signal says, I am the type of person who does what I say I will do. After months of this signal, your identity actually changes. Sarah noticed this shift in unexpected ways. When facing difficult decisions at work, she found herself naturally choosing the harder but more beneficial option. When friends invited her out late on weeknights, she declined without internal struggle. When healthy food options were available, she gravitated toward them automatically. None of this required willpower because it wasn't coming from willpower, it was coming from identity. She had become someone whose default setting was following through on beneficial choices. The morning routine hadn't just changed her mornings. It had rewired her decision-making system. This is why the samurai emphasized character development over skill acquisition. They understood that techniques can be learned quickly, but character is forged through consistent action over time. Your morning routine is character training disguised as habit formation. Chapter 10. The Obstacle Integration System. By month 5, Sarah faced her biggest test yet. A work project required her to travel for 2 weeks, staying in different hotels every few nights. Her carefully evolved routine seemed impossible to maintain. Old Sarah would have used this as an excuse to abandon everything and start fresh when she returned. But new Sarah had learned something crucial. Obstacles aren't routine destroyers. They're routine refiners. Instead of abandoning her routine, she adapted it. Hotel rooms didn't have her usual setup, so she modified the sequence. Water bottles from the minibar replaced her kitchen glass. Stretching happened in whatever space was available, even if it was just beside the bed. Fresh air came from opening windows or stepping onto balconies when possible. The routine looked different, but its essence remained intact. Immediate action upon waking, gentle movement to activate her body, a moment of stillness to center her mind. The specific actions adapted to circumstances, but the pattern held strong. This adaptability is what separates sustainable routines from rigid systems that break under pressure. The samurai understood that true strength comes not from perfect conditions, but from maintaining your core principles regardless of external circumstances. When Sarah returned from her trip, something remarkable had happened. Her routine was stronger than before. She had proven to herself that it could survive disruption, adapt to challenges, and maintain its power even in unfamiliar environments. This created unshakable confidence in the system. Travel became a routine strengthener rather than a routine breaker. Each new environment became an opportunity to prove the system's flexibility and resilience. Instead of fearing disruption, she began welcoming it as training for her adaptive capacity. Chapter 11. The Compound Effect Revelation. Month 6 brought a revelation that changed how Sarah understood success entirely. She calculated that her morning routine now required approximately 45 minutes of her day. 45 minutes that had somehow created improvements worth hours in terms of energy, focus, and life satisfaction. The mathematics of this seemed impossible until she understood compound interest for behaviors. Just as money grows exponentially when invested consistently, small daily actions create exponential returns when maintained over time. Her improved sleep quality gave her more usable hours each day. Better decision-making reduced time wasted on regrettable choices. Increased energy meant higher productivity in everything she attempted. The routine wasn't taking time from her life. It was creating time by making everything else more efficient. But the real compound effect went deeper than time management. Each morning she followed through on her commitment. She deposited credibility in her internal bank account. After months of these deposits, she had built massive trust with herself. When she committed to something, both her conscious and subconscious minds expected it to happen. This internal trust transformed every area of her life. Work projects got completed ahead of schedule because she trusted herself to do what she planned. Relationships improved because people could rely on her consistency. Personal goals became achievable because she had proof she could maintain long-term commitments. Remember that routine you wrote in the comments at the beginning of this video? the one you keep abandoning. You now have everything you need to make it stick, not through perfect planning, but through imperfect action. Start with something so small it seems ridiculous. Do it within 5 minutes of waking up. Ignore prerequisites, embrace failure as data, and let momentum build naturally. Your routine doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to begin. Tomorrow morning, prove to yourself that you're someone who follows through, because the warrior's path isn't perfected in theory. It's forged in action.